Hi guys. How is everybody doing today? So we'll get started with coding the things soon. First, I would like to pick up the one question, interesting question that I received on Discord. So Sid had asked, can you give a brief info about messaging systems? Kafka, RabbitMQ, etc. So and where can we use something like that in this project? Okay, so messaging systems के बारे में to talk about. I'm just talking about these things in the beginning so that as some people are joining, so let kind of people join in the first 2-3 minutes, and then we will resume with the code. Messaging systems are kind of helpful where mm, the uh, the number of requests that are coming are very high, and your server can probably crash at some point. It can resume, it can pick up the items available in the messaging queue, and you don't need an immediate kind of uh, effect of it. So I will give you an example. So say we have a review system at any e-com website. Okay, so most review systems, what happen is that there is some extra parsing that happens in the review. If the review contains any bad words like some cuss words or some explicit content, then those reviews are not added. So those reviews go through a in like big companies like Amazon, it will go through a machine learning process. Through small companies, it will go through a manual process. If somebody comes and writes a review, it is not immediately visible to people. It will go through that processing and it will be visible later, right? So, but the number of reviews that are coming in could be very high. So what we can do is we can basically write those reviews to a queue. What does the queue do? I will show it to you using a diagram that would be kind of easier. Hey, so we're doing something else the other day. Let me just clear this and yeah. So say you have got your backend system here, right? This is your backend, and these are your different say users are there who are writing reviews to your system. So one thing you can do is you can directly make a REST API call and just write to your backend directly like this. So that is one option, and with small systems in the beginning we actually do that, right? Later on, what you can do is you can set up a queue. So a queue would basically say this is my queue, right? um, Say I call it reviews queue, right? So what will happen is that in this case, say one person writes a review, so that goes and we put it on the queue. Then the next person writes a review, we take that and then we put it on the queue. And then another person writes the review, we take that and then we put it on the queue. Okay, then we have a mechanism here to pick items from the queue here. Okay, and if the queue is getting filled up too fast, it is fine because the data remains in the queue. In fact, what can happen is that if for a while I have to restart my backend. Okay, so say the backend goes down for a while. Okay, then it comes back. It's still fine, the data was in the queue. Whatever remaining data was in the queue, it can start parsing them again, right? Now here we can add that say machine learning algorithm or something that okay, if the reviews conform to certain specifications that I want, then only I will write it to my DB. I can specify that okay, if it's everything is all right, then I will actually say this is my database here, right? So I check whether everything is correct or not, or whether things are there is something wrong with the review. Okay, so if things are wrong, in that case the review will be dumped somewhere. Okay, if maybe we log it somewhere to some error logs or something. If everything is correct, we take it and we put it into the DB. So these kind of cases where a queue is essentially useful. If there is not a lot of load on the server and the backend can directly parse the reviews at real time, or if it is some data that you can't keep it in a queue for some time, you have to deal with that data in the real time only, then in such cases queues are not helpful. Okay, So depends upon use case and everything. So a lot of places like in big companies at scale, say these Google, Amazon kind of big companies, so they would be doing their analytics and their events also over a queue. So every time you're using Amazon app, Google app, so every action that you do, every click, every scroll, everything is logged by their servers. That's how they're able to target you and send you advertisements. So you're scrolling through something, you're reading one place, maybe on Amazon you are scrolling through products, one place you pause for a while. If you pause for a product for too much longer, they will send you ads for that product more to you. Okay, so they are basically taking events, they're taking scroll events, stop events, all of that, these events they're capturing. So I work at Target. Target is a company similar to Amazon. It does not exist in India though. In US it's a retail company, they also sell a lot of e-com stuff. So you have an app, same thing, we are seeing events from the users, which place they're scrolling, which place they're stopping, which place they're tapping, all of that. So those events also we pass it through a queue, because we don't need that data in real time. If that data is parsed a little later, that's fine. The queue is resilient. If my server restarts or crashes, the data will remain in the queue, I can pick it up later. The speed at which I can consume the queue can vary on my end, that's fine. People can put into the queue at their speed. If there are more users, more data will be coming in. Less users, less data will be coming in. I will be flushing the queue at my rate, at whatever rate the backend is able to run. Okay, so hope that answers your question. I think a lot of people have joined in, so let's resume with the stuff that we were going to be working on, right? The backend, as we were talking about, right? One thing is, there is called the API, right? I'm kind of describing it. Say at the bottom there are the clients. Okay, so this is, say, a client. A client could be a mobile app or a website. Okay, it could be Google Assistant script. It could be Alexa script. A lot of kinds of clients can exist today. Okay, it could be a application based UI client, like a website or mobile. It could be just a voice based client. It could be another app that uses data from your app. Okay, so that's your client, and we have created an API. We are going to create an API. Okay, so this is my application programming interface. It says that, okay, if you want articles, pick from here. If you want comments, pick from here. If you want users, pick from here. So they are all specified. Okay, so this path is called slash API slash users. Okay, this path is called slash API slash articles. Okay, so if you make a get request here, you will get articles back from here. Okay, if you make a get request to users here, you will get users back here. So that's your API. So what clients see, they are seeing the API. Okay, but the data is actually stored inside a DB, right? So this is my DB, and DB will contain a lot of tables. Okay, so for example, in our case, we have created a table for users. We have created a table for articles. I'll write it other way around. Put the users here, put the articles here, and comments, right? So these are things that are there. This is my database, right? So the stuff that we will kind of write here, this place, this logic. So these we generally write things called controllers here. Okay, so what kind of controllers exist? Okay, so there would be, say, a controller called I just use so controllers are going to be like functions. So there is, say, an add article controller. Okay, so if somebody basically a client tries to send an article through the article API, it will go through the article controller. Okay, and it will get added into the articles table. Okay, but not just that, it also has to fetch that which user is writing the article. Okay, so it will fetch that data from the user table as well, so that it can pass the user ID into the article as well. Okay, So these pieces of logic that you will write, that how to add an article. So to add an article, we need to find out the title of the article, the body of the article. So the title and the body, they are all going to be coming from here. Okay. uh, but it will also be sending, say, a token. The user will be sending a token. So from that token, I need to find out what is the user ID, what is the user's name, the author's details. So they will be coming from here. So we will take the data from here, take the data from here, merge it all here, and then we'll put it in the articles table. Similarly, if I have to, make a request that, I want to get articles. So the article controller will fetch the data from the articles table, and then it will, send it via this API to the client. Okay. So that's what the controllers are. So controllers are where you will actually write your logic, where you will be your when your request comes to API, it will trigger a controller function. The controller function will either write data to the database or fetch data from the database and send a response back to the user. So that's what our controllers are. Okay. So these things here, they are called routes. Okay. So the things that we create the API layer, they are called routes. Right. These things are called controllers, and our database is managed using an ORM. In our case here, these things are all managed using the ORM. So that's how our code will be divided. So let's get down to the actual coding part here. Okay. Okay. Any important question? I don't think. So Kunal, you're asking about the Android one. So Android one is not really complete. I think the tags was left, but I think I would leave it to you guys to do those features like tag and comments. If you really think you need help on that, Discord pe there is a channel for Android as well. Ping me there. If you want me to make a video for those ones as well, I can make another. I think one more session, those finishing touches can be done. But if you want to kind of just try it out yourself, writing comments, because articles I have done. Writing an article, reading articles, creating, signing up user, login user, all of that is already done. Okay. Otherwise, what we can do is make the backend, and then when we connect it with our app, we can see how all of that works. Okay. So my idea was I would make a series of Android front end. I will be using Vue.js because that's what I'm comfortable with, and backend I'm using Node because I'm comfortable again with that. Okay. So you can see an entire full stack, complete product getting created. How to create backend, how to create front end, how to create an app, entire series for all of that stuff. Okay. We have talked a lot. Let's go to the code. सब लोग डार्क मोड कह रहे थे, तो आई हैव टर्न ऑन डार्क मोड. आई थिंक आप लोग अंधेरे में बैठ के देख रहे होगे अगर, तो फॉर दैट डार्क मोड इज़ बेटर. I prefer light mode when I am using it while there is light in my room. So you should use dark mode only if there is darkness around you, and you should use light mode if you are sitting in a well lit room. आँखों के लिए better है if you select the theme accordingly, right? So but a lot of people say dark mode, so fine, I will use dark mode in the editor. These were my article comment user. These are the entities that are done. So what I will do is I will create a folder here, another folder called routes, and I will create another folder called controllers. So this is my directory structure. Inside src there is controllers, there is controllers, there is entities, yeah. So controllers, entities, and routes. So that's the directory structure right now. Entities already have the ORM class definitions that we created in the last session, right? So let's start with what routes do we want in our project, right? So we need to set up these set of routes. By the way, there is a they provide you with a Postman this thing, I think Postman bundle as well, and a Swagger file as well. So you can use the Swagger file, right? So you can go to Swagger online viewer and go to Swagger editor. They have this JSON file. So copy the data of the file, put it in the Swagger editor. Okay, and you will see the list of endpoints in a more nice way. Okay, so you can do it like this. So we have to create all of these endpoints essentially. So there are users, profile, articles, comments, favorites, default, stuff like that. Okay, let's go ahead and let's do those things. So in routes we'll create a new TypeScript file for users. We'll create another TypeScript file for articles. Okay, let's just see how we'll go ahead with this. So to first of all, to sign up, you have to set post users slash login. Okay, and then post users to register a new user. This is for logging in, this is to get the current user, and this is to update the user. So let's just say we want to create these four functions. So how do we go ahead doing that? So we have to create a root first of all. So roots are created like this. um, so you import router from Express, you create a route like this, and then you do export this route. Okay, you can name it properly as well. You can name sorry, export const user root like this. Okay, so now the user root. So what are the things that we need here? So we'll have to do root dot get, so root dot post. So here we can write in comments like this: post users, this is the login path, post users, this is to register a new user. Okay, so the thing about roots, one thing you would be seeing is, okay, by the way, a few people were confused in using VS Code versus WebStorm. So these hints that you are seeing here, these hints are coming because WebStorm shows that. You can disable that as well. I think sorry, I think yeah, disable type annotation hints type. So we go to hints, I think. These things can be removed using the type annotation or something like that. Anyway, just wanted to tell you that these things are added by WebStorm. They are not there in the actual code. So if I just copy this and go to Sublime and just paste this stuff, so it's just rec and res. That stuff I have not typed. These things I have not typed, the request, p body, and all of that stuff. Okay. Anyway, going ahead, let's see what we will do. We need get for user as well. Root dot get slash this will this should be slash users will do a get request, so we'll get the current user. I think there is something wrong with this. It is get user or get users. I'll just check the documentation once. It's API slash user and not slash users, so we need to take care of that as well. So generally we create a path like users slash me if there is a plural here s. Otherwise, if it is get user, so we do like this. If it is get user, then we should not write it in this file. Instead, we'll create a new user file. Okay, and you can write pretty much the same code here, except these two paths would be different. So we'll do root dot get, and this would be doing a get request on slash user, right? This again I have to fetch some data and do all of that stuff. Okay. Now, how do we make? So let's just say I will write here res.send. This is just a sample response. Okay. So how do we make this API actually work? So in server.ts, we'll actually have to import the routes. So in our app, we can do app.use slash API slash users, and we can do users root here. Okay, and then app dot use slash API slash user, we can do the user root. So notice the difference in S. There's a users root and there's a user root. So imported them both from the roots file like this. Okay, and then if I just start this server right now, and if I try to send a get request to slash API slash users, so let's see what happens. People asking for the Discord channel link. The Discord channel link is cb.lk slash Discord. I've just written it down in the chat as well if you guys want to join. It's there in the description of the video as well. Okay. By the way, so server has started. Now, if I go to this thing, localhost, I think 3232 is my server, right? Slash API slash user. So it sends this whatever response I had written there. Okay, I can change that response a little bit. Right. So that response is working here. Okay. So how do we create routes? Routes are basically your URL paths that slash API slash user, all of that stuff. So we can write all our code inside server.js or server.ts, but it's not a good practice, because then your server.js might become a huge file with lots of routes and lots of paths. So instead what you do is we create separate files for the separate routes in form of, like, if you think of them as folders. So if you are like subdirectory, so there is one folder for users, one folder for user, one folder for articles, one folder for articles slash comments, like that, different folders. So for every such path you create a separate root file, and then you mount those routes using this. So mounting is it's called mounting usually because it's similar to how you mount a disk drive into your computer. Like you connect a pen drive, it's mounted to path G or F or whatever, right? So if you mount it, it's on mounted G path. So if there is a file called file.txt, it will be at g:/file.txt, right? Now if you take that pen drive out, go to somebody else's computer and you mount it, and in his computer the pen drive is at drive D, the file would be d/file.txt, right? So the drive is containing a lot of stuff. You can mount it at different drive letters as you want. So here we are taking the route and then we are mounting it at different paths as and what we like. So we could mount it to XYZ as well. Okay. So if we did that, if I did API slash XYZ, in that case, if I go to API slash users, I will cannot get API slash users because such a route does not exist. If I do API slash XYZ, instead I will get that response that we're doing. Okay. So the general convention is that you name the file here same as what the name of the root should be. That's the general consensus that we believe in, right? Keeps things working smoothly. So we'll create a controller also for users. So we'll create so there are two ways of doing it: object-oriented way, functional way. I'm not going into too much object-oriented here because at the end of the day, TypeScript is just a wrapper over JavaScript. You can create controller as a class and then construct it. I don't care about that so much. I'll just create the functions directly. Okay, so there's a users controller. Here what we will do is we will import the user entity and we'll create a function. So export async function create user. Okay, so to create a user, what are the things that we need? Okay, so to create a user, to register a user, we need username, email and password. Okay, so if we need username, email and password, so we can do is something, we can create an interface, user sign up data. It contains username of type string, password of type string, and email of type string. Okay, so we'll do create user, and it will be taking data in this data format, user sign up data, right? What it needs to do is it needs to create a user. Okay, so to create a user, that's where the first db operation is gonna come up for us, right? So there's this entities, users.ts. So how do we go about doing that? So we'll do get repository user dot create, and inside create we will pass the uh, things that we were creating. We'll need a username, right? So we'll do username, we'll do data dot username, and we need email, so we'll do data dot email. I'm not dealing with the password right now. Okay, so I'll just write it, securely handle passwords. So right now I'm gonna be just signing up users with username and email without a password. Okay, so I'll create a user. Okay, and I will await it. Okay, const user equal to this, and then return user. Okay, so that's my create user function. It creates the user and then returns the newly created user object. So that's my create user function. That's a controller level data. So just remember again, so here this is the like add article. Similar to that, we would be having create user function as well, right? So that's the create user function that I have just created. Okay, some any other questions? So GitHub link is sorry, people who are just joining, all of this is on github.com /coding blocks archives /conduit node.js TypeScript. Okay, that's the repository here. I will just send the link here as well. If okay, cool. And like I said, there's a description, there is a Discord link. You guys can join the Discord link here as well. Okay, so there's a Node.js channel for this Node.js series, and if you have any doubts, you can ask that as well. Okay, so we'll use this create user function in our root post user /login. So if somebody makes a post request, right? So we'll do is we'll call create user. We can make this function async. We can do something like this: try, await, create user, and in data we will do rec dot body dot, and we need those things inside the request body, right? So rec dot body, what does it contain? So we'll need to pass here three things. What three things we need to pass? Username. So we'll do rec dot body dot username. Okay, and we need email. So we'll do rec dot body dot email. Okay, so we do this. If the user has been created properly, then what do we need to send back in the response? We need to send back the user object back, right? We have to send the proper user object back to the person. So we can do is but if there is an exception, catch. So if there is an error, okay. So if there is an error, so we will first of all change the status to say 500. It's a general error for status code, and we will send something else. So what we will send here, if there is an unexpected error, oh, there's 422. So we will send say 422, and we will send this format here, okay. Errors body, this kind of format. So um, errors is an object, sorry, errors is an object, and there is body, and inside body could not create user. So something like this will respond with an error in this case, okay. We'll obviously have to handle different kinds of errors. If the username exists, it will be a different error. If the email exists, it will be a different error. We are going to create them one by one, but let me just quickly glue things together and see how it is working, okay. So that will be my post request for this. Now the biggest issue is that post request will right now not work, okay. So if I just start this, okay, and I try to send this post request. So how do I send a post request? I can open Postman, okay. So Postman is a REST API client which you can use to try out your API, because we are creating an API, so you can't see something in so I'll just create a new collection. Let's just say okay, let's create a new request. Send a request, post request to uh, localhost 3232 slash API slash user, and we will send a body. So in the body we can send as JSON. So what JSON will we send? What have they asked us to send? So we have to send this kind of an object, okay. So let's just send this kind of an object there. User, username, email, password. So user1, email is user1 at mail.com, and password is pass1, okay. So that's the request that I'm going to be sending here, okay. So just send and see what happens. So if I send could not create user, we get an error here, okay. What actually error did really happen in this case, right? So just send it again. So there's some error that's happening, obviously, right? If I want to just log my errors as well, so if there is an error, I can do console.error. Let's print E, okay. So let's restart my server. I want to know what really happened, what was the error here, okay. So if I send again, so cannot read property username of undefined. So that's the error that I get, okay. So reading errors is the most important part of development. Like at scale, when you're doing development, you will find out you will spend less time writing new code, more time finding out errors in your own code, in somebody else's code. So finding out errors is the most important part. So you know, by the way, guys, is the dark theme fine? I think there is a bit of contrast problem. The light theme was, as per me, I prefer that. It is better when I look at it. So this is the light one. I can restart the ID. It will change that color theme as well. So is the light one better or the dark one better? Just let me know once. Okay. I don't know if the console text is visible or not properly for you guys. Okay. um, by the way, I will just do thing is I'll increase the console font size a little bit. Wait, let me just do it. Cool. Uh, yeah, I think the light one is more readable, and these things are hints that's also properly visible. I think if doing using light, so light is usually better. I mean, people just get into the hype train. It's like how people start smoking and drinking as well because everybody else is doing it. It's cool to do, so people do it. Um, I also do. It's not like I don't do, but light theme is kind of dark theme is kind of like that. It does not really help you. It's like RGB light in gaming PCs as well. It's just everybody does that just to appear cool, right? So just use whatever theme feels more comfortable and more readable. For me, I think light is more readable to me. Even on web streams and all, at a little lower resolutions, light is better visible. Anyway, check that. So this is the error that we are having because the body can't be read. So body can't be read because if somebody has done Node.js before, they would know what the issue is. We need to use body parser. So we'll do that. We will do app.use express dot json, and we will do app.use express dot so we don't need URL encoded support. JSON support is fine for us. This is not going to take requests from HTML forms. So if it does not take requests from HTML forms, just having JSON support is perfectly fine enough for us. Okay, now we have JSON support. If I start my server again, right, and if I make that request, we'll see something should happen this time, right? So let's make a request and we get something in return. So there was some query that had run, right? Whether the user was created or not, so that's the important thing that we need to go and check out. So we can open the Postgres connection that we had opened. Okay, so we have our user table, so we can do select star from user. So there's supposed to be email, username, bio, image, all of that stuff. There is nothing right now. So select star from public dot user. So a row has not been added right now. Okay, so whatever that happened, we did not really get whatever we wanted. Okay, so if I just send a request again, I'm getting an empty object, but there is no SQL query also running. So you need to find out why that is happening. Okay, so we should put this as well. Like we can do is use breakpoint debugging for this case. We can put a breakpoint here, we can put a breakpoint here, we can see what the response has come. Okay, we can start with breakpoint debugging mode. We send a request. um, Sorry, I think we need to start it. Okay, so the debugger did not connect properly. um, so for TypeScript, if you want to attach debugger, there is another couple of ways to do that. So we can do server.ts and we can directly run this with debug server.ts. So we need to install ts node. So what we'll do is go to our package and install npm install d ts node. So there is this package called ts node, which stands for TypeScript node. So it is an interpreter that can directly interpret TypeScript files without building that. So with ts node, what happens is you can use debuggers much better in that case. Okay, so I have these breakpoints set here. I'll just go and run server in debug mode. Okay, so when it starts that, and if I make this request, right, so here my debugger has gotten attached here, const user equal to this. Now if I go to the next level, right, so apparently it did not go ahead after this, right. So we should probably put a try catch around this as well and see what problem is happening here. Okay, so there's a problem that also gets printed in this place. Okay, so let's just try to find out why we are having a problem here. Let's console.log the user here. Okay, if you want to discover the log easily, you can do something like this. Let's just write create user like this, and let's run it. So we will be able to read that log whenever that comes out. We'll be able to find this out much more easily. So if I send a request again, so apparently an empty user is getting created. Okay, so why an empty user is getting created, we'll have to see that. So when we call the create function, what are the things that we need? We need the email, we need the username. Everything else is optional. So this should have been created, but there is some problem here. Okay. Hmm. Let's see if the data is correct or not. So let's just check that out as well. Okay, because the data is not correct, then it would not get created. But essentially, there should have been some error, which is not happening. That is the strange case here. Yeah, so I'm getting undefined username and undefined email. So that's the problem, that my data I'm not getting correctly. Okay, so how do we debug that? So wherever create user is called, from there we have to check that here, when we are passing, is it not getting passed correctly? So the problem is that we have done rec.body.username and rec.body.email, while the request that we are sending is actually rec.body contains a user object. Inside that there is a username, email and password object. So that is essentially the problem. Okay, so we can fix that. We can fix that in various ways. We can do is, here we can pass directly rec.body.user object. Okay, and we can cast it to whatever we needed there, sign up data or something. That's something that we needed, or we can just pass it like this, rec.body.user, because it contains the username and password directly. So essentially, there are two ways I can fix it. So either I have to write like this, right? Because rec.body does not directly contain username and email. It contains a user object inside which there is username and email. So that was the issue essentially. Okay, so I can do it either like this, or I can do is I can just pass the rec.body.user itself here. Okay, so let's start the server again and let's see what happens this time. So user gets created, user1 at mail.com and user1. So a user has been created. Right. Now the interesting part is, if I send this request again, if I keep on sending it, I am just getting the same user object back again, right? Um, in the table, are new users getting created? We should go and check that out as well. Okay, so users are not actually getting created in the table, so no queries are getting run. So we'll have to see what's I think I should take a look at type-orm documentation at this level. How have they shown how to create an entity? Okay. Okay, so they have used a different approach, which also I think we can use. That is, create a new user, set the things, and then user repository dot save. So let's do that. I think dot save. Let's see if this works using save instead of create. That worked. So there is the SQL query that has gone. So insert into user values 1 and 2, parameters user 1 and user 1, and I've got this user object returned to me. Okay. Now if I send it again, right, so this is where I would generally get the error, but the error handling is not correctly working here. If I just check it, so one user has been added. If I add another one and I keep on adding, so there I should get an error that it is not able to save the user, but I'm not getting that error. So I should essentially put a try catch around this and handle these errors properly, but those errors are not showing up. So we'll get to that, but this is how the controller and the roots can be attached. Let me just write down the rest of the controller logic here, so that we can connect creating users and signing up user, logging in user, all of that stuff, and then we will see how to handle the errors properly, and send proper errors back to the user, to the client who is making that request. Okay. So I'll just commit this and I'll just recap what we had done. So documentation for how to use this repository kind of way, it's available in if you go to working with repository. So what is repository? So you do get repository, and then you user repository dot find one, user repository dot save, like that. There's the repository stuff. Okay. So there are two ways you can use: either entity manager, which can manage all entities, or you can use repository for each repository. Okay. So this is how to create. There is this data mapper pattern that is shown here, that you get the repository, and then you do is you create a user and then you call save, and you can do remove and all of that stuff. Okay. So essentially that save there, we should get an error if we are passing the same primary key again. We need to check why, if some errors are supposed to come, they're not coming, right? So what we have done is we have created roots for articles, users, like that. So articles root does not have any code right now. We have added these roots into server, so that in the API we can make request and that particular code will get run. Okay. One thing to keep note, that this is so that our body can be passed as JSON objects. By default, Express cannot parse bodies of any random data type. If it is of JSON type, you have to add this line. If it is of URL encoded type, you have to add this line, like that. Okay. So what kind of data you'll be sending, depending on that. If you're sending multi-part data for file upload, then there is a separate library also for that called multer. So you have to tell what kind of bodies you are expecting to be parsed, right? Then we have created controllers. So there is a controller for user, where we will write the functions which will do our business logic pieces. So one of the logic is that we'll create a user. So to create a user, what we need to do, I'll just remove the console.log lines right now for here. So what does this create user thing do? It will be actually getting the a repository, and then it will save an user object like this. Or we can do like this, const user equal to new, and you can create a user. So we can pass, if you want, you can do constructor things, but otherwise it's better that we do like this. So you do user, and then you do await dot save user, like that you can do. Okay. So we do user dot username equal to data dot username, user dot email equal to data dot email, and then we can do await get repository user save the user, and we can return the user here. Okay. If there is an error, we can catch it, and we can do is in fact, if there is an error, we can just throw it as well. Okay, the outer function will deal with it. So this function has a try and a catch, and if there's an error, it will deal with it. So depends at which level you want to handle errors, which level you don't want to handle errors, all of that stuff. Okay, so let's see. So server has started. Send a post request. Let's just user2 at gmail.com. Let's just see. Right, send, and user has been created here. If I send same user again, yeah, so that error condition is not getting handled. We'll have to see why such a thing is happening. Okay, so save does not actually throw an error. In fact, that's what it said. Saves all the given entities in the password. If entities do not exist in the database, then inserts. Otherwise, updates. So apparently, the save behavior is fine actually. Okay, it does not give an error because it's a soft function. I think there is a insert for that. So if I do insert a user like this, in this case, I believe I will get an error. So inserts a given entity in database. Unlike save method, executes a primitive operation without cascades, relations, and other operations. Execute fast, efficient insert query. Does not check if entity exists in the database. So query will fail if duplicate entry is being inserted. So if you want that failure to happen, right? So in that case, this is kind of helpful for that reason. So if I do it with insert, right? If I just start it again, so again, reading the documentation is important. I haven't extensively worked on type-orm, so save versus insert wasn't something that I knew from the top of my head. So save will save it if it is a new one. If it is old data, it will just update the data. Insert will actually run like an SQL insert. Okay, so now this time if I send user2, so these ones are supposed to fail, I think. They did not fail though. So let's see what's the result that's happening in this case. So this is the inserted result, what is getting inserted and all of that stuff. It's sending us back. Okay. So up to you, like you can use the insert case or the save case and do it. Now let's handle say the login case as well. So for login, I think we would be sending username. Okay, The password is something that we need to handle. We had written to do for here. So with passwords, what happens is that we don't save real passwords to our database. We don't save it in strings. What we instead do is we will be encrypting it and saving it. Not just encrypting it, basically using hashing. So hashing is one-way encryption. You can't decrypt that back, right? So even if somebody gets access to your database, they won't be able to find out people's password. There is no way to decrypt that. Hashing is a one-way operation. Okay. So how does hashing help in passwords? Is that if you take the same password, hash it again, you will get the same hash. Okay. So basically, if somebody is giving the same password again, you can hash it again and check with their existing hash. It will match. But you can't tell the person that, hey, your password in my DB is XYZ. You can't tell that because you can't read that person's password. So essentially, most good companies, the way they save passwords, they can't actually ever tell you your password. They can only help you reset your password. They can check if the password that you are sending to them is correct or not. That's how you're able to log in. But you can't tell them that, can you tell me what my password is? I have forgotten. So they'll say, if you've forgotten, just reset it. So you'll save a password using that, and for that we'll be using a library called bcrypt. So bcrypt is the standard way in the industry, at least for small scale companies and projects that people use for encrypting password, is using bcrypt. So we'll use bcrypt. By the way, bcrypt comes as a native module and also as a JS module. So the native one, so there is, I think, bcrypt .js and normal bcrypt. So there are, sorry, bcrypt JS. So this is the bcrypt JS, and this is just bcrypt. Okay. So most people use just bcrypt, which is has 5 lakh downloads weekly. The bcrypt JS one, I think, has less downloads. Yeah. Oh, it's more downloads actually. Uh, oh, so I think this is for the front end. So this is for the node one. This is the node.bcrypt.js. Okay. So we'll go ahead and use this one. That one is for the browsers. How to use bcrypt, and also there is some definition written here. So I'll just go and install bcrypt. Right. We'll create a folder called utils, and we'll create a password utils folder here, file. Okay. We'll do the stuff here that we need to do. We need to require bcrypt. We need to do salt rounds, plain text password, some other plain text password, and gen salt and all of that stuff. So let's do it and see how that works. Okay. So bcrypt works using callbacks and not using promises. So there is a bcrypt promise library which wraps it in promises. You can do it manually as well if you want to. Okay. This is the bcrypt promise library. Okay. So instead of that, you can do it manually as well. We'll just see how that can be done. So sometimes you will face libraries which are not written in the promise way. You might have to wrap it up yourself manually. Okay. So let's do that. Okay. Bcrypt does not come with TypeScript definitions, but we can install types/bcrypt and it will be available then in that case. Okay. So we need to create this thing, const salt rounds. The bigger you number keep here, the more difficult it would be to crack the passwords, and but the slower your server would be, because higher salt rounds means you will run the hash more number of times, so your password will be slower. Default is 10. We can go with 10, not a problem. So bcrypt dot there is hash, and then there is compare. So be clear. So we'll create a function, uh, export function, and this function does is hash password, takes the password as a string and returns a promise in which we will pass a string which will be the hash. Okay, so how do we go about it? Right, so bcrypt dot hash will take the data which is password. We will take the salt rounds which is here. Okay, and we'll take the callback. So if there is error, right, we will call reject with the error. Else we will do is we will call resolve with the encrypted hash here. Okay, so that's my password hashing function. I have taken this callback function, wrapped it inside a promise so that we can call it with async await and all if I want to. Okay, this is how to hash a password. This is then export function match password. So we will do is send the existing hash and the password that we want to match with it. Okay, so we'll do a promise boolean here. So we'll do return new promise here as well. What we'll do here, bcrypt dot compare. In compare, we have to pass first. We have to pass the data, and that's gonna be the password. The second thing is gonna be the encrypted stuff. That's the hash, right? And then we have the callback. So if error that, and else we will resolve with whether it is same or not. Okay, you can rename it to, I think, yeah. So how to test these kind of things before connecting it to your server? So that's very important. You should not try it. So this much code I have written, maybe this works fine, maybe this does not work fine, but this is a util function. So let's not hook it into our controller and then try to find if it works, because if I do it that way, then there could be an error in the root, there could be an error in the controller, there could be an error in the db, there could be an error in this file, and I will have to debug all those errors simultaneously. So let's first do is let's run this file and see if it works correctly or not. Okay, so how do we do that? To just create this is all for testing only, we will remove that stuff later. So what we do, const pass equal to, this is a password. Okay, const hash equal to await this thing, hash password. Oh, sorry, I have double S, it will be hash. So hash password, and let's pass this password here. Okay, console.log will password and hash. Okay, so does hashing work, and what is the hash that is created? So we can do is simply just run this file. Okay, password.ts, let's run. What does it print? So this is the password, as you can see here, right? And this is the hash. Okay, so we'll do is check if the hash matches or not as well. So that also we can do. So create password. Okay, check with correct password. So it will do const check one equal to exactly same string. Okay, so we'll do match the password with the hash and pass the check one. Okay, so console.log match one. Okay, do the same thing with incorrect password. So this time I will use the incorrect password, match 2. Okay, so let's run it this time and see whether that's working or not. Oh, match 2 is true. By oh, sorry, my bad. So match 1 is true, match 2 is false. So if I pass a correct password, it matches with the hash, otherwise it does not match. And this data here, anybody who finds this data in your database, they can't guess the password of the user using this. Okay, now as I said about the salt round, so if I change the salt rounds to 2, what happens? So it's a different kind of hash gets created. If I change the sort rounds to 10, different kind of hash gets created. Okay, but the length is kind of the same every time. Okay, the very interesting thing is if I create hash for the same password again, right? Now you see, first time the hash created is different, the second time the hash created is different. Why? That's where the salts are important. It creates the hash, then it adds the salt to it, and then it hashes it again, so that even with the same string you don't get the same salt twice, but the matching will still work correctly. Okay, I am not going into too much detail. I can like take a almost 1 hour class on crypto, and we will still have a lot of things to talk about. But anyway, so this is the process that we use for saving passwords. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's check that out quickly as well. Let's remove this test. We don't need it because it's working correctly. We have seen that. Okay, so we'll go here to the user controller, and in the create user, in the sign up data, we'll take the password now. Okay, and we will do is user.password. Oh, so we'll have to save the password as well now, which I did not do earlier. So we'll create a column for password of type string. Okay, not nullable as well again. So there we go. User.password equal to await hash password data.password. So we will save the hash password and not the real password here. Okay. If any of this information is not provided and we want to throw an error, we can do those things in the beginning as well. If if not data dot username, and we can do throw new error, username is blank, and we can do like this. So for email and for password. So for these cases, we will reject it immediately in the beginning. Okay, then we try to do it. So now if I run my server again, right? So if I send this without the password, just to show, sorry, it's a different error. Yeah. So we got a good not create user, and in fact, whatever is the body of this function, if you want to pass that as well, so you can do that here. Could not create user. So you can send multiple errors to the user, whatever was the problem internally. We'll get to know that. So here we go. So we send here. So could not create user, password is blank. So this is the reason. Okay. So if I send a password now, but if I forget the email, then email is blank. So we get errors accordingly. Okay. Now if I do both email and password and send, so user has been created. Now here's the problem: we are sending the password back to the client. This is something we should not do. Okay. There are multiple ways to control that. Right. So when we are doing a select query here, user.password and everything, we can remove the password there. Okay, a bunch of ways we can do it. So we can have, say, a util function. So there are either you can make an SQL query and remove the password in that query. That's one way of doing it. The another way is you can create, say, a TypeScript file called security.ts, and here we can create a export function, sanitize fields. It takes a user object. Okay, so if user.password exists, it will do user.password equal to undefined, or you can do delete user.password, and yeah, so we'll have to make this optional here. And then return user. Okay, so then we can do here sanitize fields user and then send it. Okay, so this way if I do, then my password gets deleted. I can later on add other logic here in the sanitize fields as well, that it is gonna clean any sensitive data from the fields of the user, and wherever user is returned will do a sanitize fields. Those kind of things we can do. Okay, so let's say create user number 5 here. So this time we don't get the password back in the response. Okay, various ways you can do it, or you can do it in the get user function. You can remove the password. All of those things you can do. Cool. Okay. Any other questions? So what if some packages don't have type definitions? That is an unlucky case. So yeah, so the popular libraries would have type definitions. If they don't, then you will have to write your own type definitions in that case. That's gonna rarely happen. So if you're using any popular library, it will always have type definitions. At the types repository, it has, I think more than 100,000 packages it now has. So you will rarely find packages without type definitions. Okay. Cool. So what I'll do is, people who are doing it along with me, what you guys can do is try to build the other controllers as well for writing an article, writing comments, and all of that stuff. Okay. The next session that I will do, I will actually I'll try to do is tomorrow itself. I might write the controllers, and in the next session, first 10-15 minutes, show the code of the controller and explain it rather than write all of it again. You can always go to GitHub and see my commits, right? Because a lot of it is going to be very manual labor kind of work here, because you got the idea how to connect a route to the DB via the controller. So how this architecture essentially works, right? So once you understand this stuff, right, how what is the role of a controller in this system, then it's all about writing the functions of the controllers. For a system like this, it's very simple, because you have creating users, signing up users, is creating users, then login, which you have to just fetch a user, check if the username and the password match, writing articles, writing comments for articles, and when you write articles you have to add tags to them. So it's not a very difficult thing, but it's like in your mental model, in your mind, it will get created very soon. It's just you have to write that code to do that. Okay, so doing all of that in a continuously in a video might be boring. So in the next video I might have the controllers written. I will see if I get time to do it, otherwise I will do it live on the session itself. Okay, and then after that what we will work on are things like how the relationships in articles to comment to users, articles to users, these kind of things work, how to show users own feed, how to favorite one user by another user. Okay, self-referencing fields, how those things work. So those are the things we will focus on in the next video. Okay, hope that makes sense. Everybody who is doing this along with me, I'm sure only 3-4 people would be doing it, not a lot of people would be doing that along with me. But still, if you're doing that, like I said, there's a Discord channel. Feel free to come on here and join the Discord channel, right? There's the Node.js channel where you can ask doubts about this project. If anybody was doing the Android one, there is an Android channel as well for doubts about that, right? cv.lk/discord. Cool. So I'll end today's session here. I'm trying to keep most of the sessions, this has already become almost 1.5 hours. I'm trying to keep them close to 1 hour, not more than that, because later on people would be seeing it's hard to watch 2-3 hour long videos. I know that, right? So let's meet all of you guys next day. It's already Christmas, so Merry Christmas to all of you. Hopefully whatever college, job, whatever you're doing, you have a vacation, so have a nice long weekend, right? And those who are doing with me, come up tomorrow. We would be continuing this tomorrow, right? Okay, so good night everybody. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. So yeah, the question about session management and SSO, yes, we will be adding session management. SSO for this project, probably not, but I will do some videos on how SSO and OAuth works. I have that on my mind. I intend to do that. We will do that. But in session management in this project, yes, we will be doing JWT tokens, how to create that. That's going to be covered in this project as well. Okay, cool. So bye guys.